Greetings, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the Ramblin Gamers podcast. We are now on episode 6. My name is Adam, and I am here with Matt. And today we're going to ramble on about the latest video game news, along with some other topics ranging from game opinions, news about upcoming nerdy movies, and TV shows. If you guys are liking this show and want to stay up to date, please follow us on Twitter or Instagram. Also, please share this with a friend. We're trying to build our audience so that we can continue to do a lot of fun things. We have a Twitch account that we're going to get up and running here pretty soon, as well as a YouTube channel. We're going to start doing videos and other fun stuff on there. But before we get into the news, how are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing pretty well. Life's been good. PS5 came out. I just got the iPhone 12 mini. So, yeah, loving life. I did have a question though before we get into the news because I know you recently played Celeste,
What's
and
that?
I'm playing through that as well. And I'm kind of curious if I'm bad at the game. So, how many deaths would you say on like an average each chapter? How many deaths would you say you had? Like at the beginning, I didn't have as many. I'm now in, like, for example, chapter 6, where you fight like your part of you in like the
Mm-hmm.
really like green area with water. Do you remember if you struggled with that at all?
Kind of. There were some rooms I struggled in more than others. Like there were some rooms that I died for like 50 to 100 times, but then like some rooms I clear on my first try. And even the chapters themselves are very, very like at the beginning it wasn't as many deaths, but then randomly in the third chapter with the hotel I had like 400 or 500 deaths, and then I just kind of
Okay.
climbed up from there
I,
because the levels do get longer. I will say that like the last story level is like pretty long, and it's just kind of it's the nature of the game where you just die a lot in a room and then it just resets you immediately, so you could easily be dying like 100 times per minute and just gets your numbers up there. So
okay,
I
because
wouldn't
I
say it's
was
because
really
you're bad at the
curious.
game.
Okay. Well, just based on what you've said, I think I'm like in that like kind of sweet spot because that level I had last night, I thought I was gonna punch a hole through my TV. I was so mad, and I ended up dying close to 300 times. So it sounds like I'm in that area where like I was worried that people were maybe finishing them with like 25 deaths, and I was like, I'm
Oh
have like
no.
300, but that makes me feel actually a lot better. It sounds like I'm right in that
Hmm.
sweet spot of a couple hundred because I would say from the first one up until the one I've had like increasing amount of deaths each time, with the exception of the second one. The second one I had like hardly any deaths compared to the first one because I just like I don't know why I struggled with the controls a lot at the very beginning, but
Hmm.
I got a hang of it in the second one. But before we move on again, um, that hotel one that you're talking about, I've
i
had playing
I
like a
really
video
liked that
game
level.
recently. That was
Hmm.
fun. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. I was just curious if I was bad at video games.
No, well, I mean, you are, but you're doing pretty good in Celeste.
Yeah.
But let's move
Okay, that's
on
good.
to uh, the biggest gaming news to come out this week, being that the Game Awards released their nominations for each category. So, um, what, like, I guess general thoughts from me, like, it kind of makes sense. It was kind of easy to predict it. I know you and I both put our predictions out on Twitter, so they're out there. Like, you
Hmm.
can verify that we predicted this before they were announced. But I think the big surprise for me was Hades. You and I both didn't have Hades on our list. We didn't think
Yeah.
it'd get nominated, but besides that, we were pretty spot on with the other nominees being Animal Crossing: New Horizons, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part Two, and then Hades being the sixth. Which
Mhm.
I didn't think like Hades deserved it. I just wasn't confident that it was going to be nominated at the Game Awards. So
Yeah.
what was your stance on that?
So, like you said, we put them out on Twitter. You did really well getting 5 of the 6 correct. I got 4 of the 6 correct. If I could go back in time, well, obviously, if I could go back in time, I would have put all the correct ones in. But I didn't know. I saw a tweet from Jeff Grubb saying that the reason Demon Souls wasn't nominated really for anything was because none of the people who vote on it really had time to play it. So
Hmm.
if I had known that, obviously, I would have taken Demon Souls out, and I most likely would have put Hades in. But for me, the bigger surprise of rather than Hades being included was Half-Life Alex being excluded. I thought I just was certain that there's now that there's like a really good VR title out there, that they would do anything they could to get it into the game of the year. Not to say it wasn't deserving, because from my understanding, people like that game a lot. I don't have the money to dive into
Mhm,
VR at the moment, but for me that was a bigger surprise than Hades being included.
mhm.
I would have liked
Especially
to seen a VR title included.
yeah, from a series like Half-Life that people really treasure that series. I've been waiting a long time for a new title to have a kinda, like,
Mhm.
VR revolutionary title be a Half-Life game. I just it just kinda seemed like it would've been nominated for me, so I put it in there in place of Hades, but,
Mhm. I
um
think I would say I will say though that of the game of the years, I think all of them are very deserving. And I've seen a lot of people kind of slander Animal Crossing a little bit, just based on, compared to the other games, it's not as much of like a huge jump in technology or gameplay or anything like that. But I think for some reason people seem to forget how big that game is. Like, it took the world by storm in
it
March. Like, people who had never played video games went out and bought a Switch to play this due to potentially being bored at home. But I think that that game is incredibly deserving of being nominated and could even win.
Mhm. I don't know if it's gonna win, but it definitely deserved to be nominated, and,
Mhm.
like, I don't know all the numbers, but it's crazy how much more Animal Crossing has sold than the other 5 games that are
Yeah.
nominated for Game of the Year. So you see people like, "Yeah, this is why it was nominated." Like, it sold
Mhm.
and made a lot of money. So I definitely was confident it was gonna be nominated. I guess right now I'm not confident it's gonna win. I feel like probably Doom Eternal or Last of Us Part 2 are gonna win. But we can talk more about that closer to the Game Awards, what we really feel like, but, we can look at some of the other.
I Yeah, I guess before we move on to game of the year though, I know you and I have had conversations similar to this, where even if and this goes for any award shows, I'm thinking more Oscar specifically, like the Marvel movies aren't necessarily like critically amazing movies. They aren't like objectively better than some movies that win picture of the year or whatever. But I think when a movie or a game or a song takes the world by storm, as much as the Marvel movies do, as much as Animal Crossing did, then they at least deserve the recognition of being nominated and being at the show. So
Mhm,
regardless of Animal Crossing wins, this is like a big win, like a big like win for the game itself, because it's cool to see a game like that nominated, and it totally deserves it.
mhm, and that's kind why I thought Hades would not have been nominated, because having an indie game in Game of the Year with, like, Last of Us Part 2 or Ghost of Tsushima, just really, like, cinematic
Hmm.
games, like, Hades deserved to be nominated, I felt like, because, it's, like, good gameplay, good art direction, just, like, universally praised. I just didn't know if the Game Awards were gonna, like, recognize that and put it up there with all these other games. So, but I'm really surprised and happy that, an indie title like Hades is getting the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, it totally deserves it.
Um, but yeah, so you talked about Demon Souls not being nominated because it was too soon, and I thought that was kind of universal. A lot of the like PlayStation launch games, like Miles Morales and stuff, but I did see Miles Morales in here somewhere. It was nominated for something. Yeah, best action
Yeah,
adventure
I
game.
Yeah, if I had to guess, they probably just the reviewers got that one a little early compared to Demon
Hmm.
Souls. Um, Miles Morales is a great game. I think I think it's almost a shame that it came out the year as all of these other games, because I think it was better than the first one, and I think it in a normal year that isn't as stacked as this one would be nominated for Game of the Year, but I I I don't think it's better than any of the games that were nominated. So
Mm-mm.
I think it's fair to leave it out. It's just a shame that it came out in the year it did. If it had come out last year, it would have won a lot of awards.
For sure. Anything else you'd like to add on these nominations? Because we will come back to this closer to the Game Awards. We'll look more in depth
Mhm.
and give predictions and stuff. But this is just initial. So
Yeah,
anything else you want to add?
we'll probably make predictions, excluding some certain ones, because I don't know about you, but I don't have a whole lot of input for like esports or even the sport games or the
Oh yeah, for sure.
strategy games. But I guess one thing I'd like to point out is I don't think Fall Guys did as well as it probably should have. Um,
Is it on here at all?
it didn't get nominated for a whole lot. Yeah, I know it got nominated for Family Game, and I'm fairly certain it got nominated for.
What got nominated for indie game?
I mean, I don't think Hades is technically an indie game. Oh, it is. I'm an idiot. Yeah. Oh, that's where Spelunky is. So, hey, I mean, we already know Hades is going to win that one. If it gets nominated for Game of the Year, it's going to get It's
Yeah.
going to win Indie Game of the Year. But I heard good things about Spirit. I don't know how to say it, but Spirit Far. I heard good things about that as well.
Yeah, I did too. I don't really know much about it, but I mean, if it looks fun, I'll play it, dude. It's the indie
Same with
game.
Phasmophobia too. Yeah, that's definitely something you and I should both look into more next year.
Yeah, more
Another
indie
thing
games.
another thing I want to touch on too is the performance award. I just really wonder like what's because I mean if we're being honest here, I think we can narrow it down to the two that are going to win it. It's going to be Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2, and Laura Bailey, who played Abby in The Last of Us Part 2. I just wonder what the
Mhm.
reaction is if and when one of those two win, because I personally, for me, I think Laura Bailey deserves it. Can I spoil The Last of Us Part 2? Do you care?
No, I don't care. But I guess like spoiler warnings for the end of
Okay,
Last of Us
so
Part 2 if you don't want to know.
yeah, skip ahead and like 2 minutes if you don't want to hear anything about this. But so in the game, Abby kills Joel. Of course, we are. I feel like pretty much anyone knows that, even people who have been avoiding spoilers. But
Yeah.
so in that, you're like you play as Ellie, and you're like pissed. You're like, oh, I can't wait to eventually kill Abby, assuming that happens. And the more as you play as Ellie, the less and less. At least for me, I didn't like her as much. Like the more that she went and she kept doing like shitty things, and I was like, Ellie, what are you doing, dog? Like you're there to kill Abby. Like Abby killed Joel. So why are you killing these pregnant ladies? And then you play as Abby, and you're like, what the fuck? I don't want to play as Abby. Abby sucks. And then you play as her, and you're like, okay, she's not that bad. She did an amazing job, and part of it's down to the writing as well. As like at the end, this character that you should hate for killing our beloved Joel. I loved her, and I didn't want her to die. In my opinion, she should walk away with this award. I just don't want the internet to be set on fire, and I know she received death threats in the past just for taking a job as Abby. And it would be a shame as something as cool as winning an award turns into that again, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like you just have to step away from it. It's like, oh, if you hated the character, then the actor probably did a good job of, translating the writing and the emotions into the character,
Mhm.
making you hate that character. So, I mean, they should be nominated at least.
E exactly, and if you ended up liking the character at the end, that's exactly what Naughty Dog wanted you to do. If you hated her, you're completely within your rights to hate her, but that's also down to the writing of Naughty Dog. That kinda gives you the conflict of emotions in your head is like, you can be pissed at the ending if you want, but that's 100% up to you. Naughty Dog didn't necessarily want you to feel any way. They wanted you to sit back and think about it and go, wow, is that like really what I wanted to happen? So I think the fact that it's so polarizing is almost a good thing because I mean the gameplay and the graphics and the everything about it is great except where people seem to get stuck up on is the story, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that was kind of what Naughty Dog was going for. Obviously, they would have liked if everyone liked their game, but also they wanted people to feel different about certain characters. Not everyone's going to have the same feelings towards a character in a game. That's my Last of Us Part 2 rant. I don't want to go
Yeah.
too far in depth with how
Mhm.
I feel about that game, but
But one more thing, like, the fans can like it or not, or be like a vocal majority that, like, they didn't like
mhm,
where they were taking this series, but the game was still, critically praised. So,
mhm.
it really is no surprise that it has a lot of nominations and will probably win a lot of them.
Yeah, I think it was nominated for 10 total awards, and it wouldn't surprise me if they won 80% of them or higher because it was an amazing game. It was an amazing story, let alone just the how great it looked and the music and everything like that. It was a very good game, but we can move on from that. That's pretty much all I had to say about the Game Awards for now until we give our predictions sometime closer to December 10th.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about this a lot more. But moving on, especially after the past couple weeks where we were heavy on Sony and Microsoft stuff, we're finally getting some Nintendo stuffs popping up. And it's actually kind of cool that we're talking about this on today is November 21st. And this morning I read an article that November 21st is like Nintendo Day because they have released a lot of titles on this day in the past. They've released like Super Mario World, the DS, F-Zero, the last Smash Brothers on the Wii U came out that day. A number of Pokemon games have released on this day. So it's like the one calendar day that has released the most Nintendo games, and I was reading about that this morning. But they just released a game yesterday called Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, which I did pick up and played for probably like 8 hours yesterday.
What are your thoughts on it? It's like a fighting game, correct?
It's So it's a Muso game, which I don't know if you know like what Dynasty Warriors is. It's just it's a clone of that with Zelda characters, and that's what Hyrule
Okay.
Warriors was. And it's either like you love the gameplay or you hate it. It's just kind of like
Hmm.
button mashing. But for me, it's satisfying, and like the story just being like Zelda characters and stuff. Like it's not as like groundbreaking as like a mainline Zelda story, but I'm
Hmm.
still like the story is like keeping me going through the repetitive gameplay. But I'm not really that far into it, it seems. So like my opinion could change. I could feel the gameplay is like too repetitive and not really scaling enough for me. Or if there's like post story content. Um, I don't know. My opinion could drastically change, but as of right now, I am actually waiting for us to be done recording so I can go play it somewhere because the gameplay is really satisfying to me. I am enjoying it.
So Hyrule Warriors, isn't that a game that they have supported for a long time and continue to support, like adding new characters and everything?
Yeah, it released initially on the Wii U, and they supported it with DLC, and then they released it on the 3DS and supported that with even more DLC. And then on the Switch, they released like a definitive edition,
Hmm.
which I bought but didn't play much because I'd already played it, and the gameplay is already repetitive enough that once I was like replaying the story, I just kind of didn't really want to keep going. Um,
Got do they plan on doing the same for this and just supporting it for several years?
they haven't said anything, but so the last Hyrule Warriors was kind of like a fan servicey game for the Zelda series. It had characters and stages from like the whole Zelda series, whereas this is just focused on Breath of the Wild characters and locations.
Okay.
And the story is like a prequel to Breath of the Wild.
I mean, and from what you just said, this one kind of seems fan servicey as well, considering how popular Breath of the Wild was. Like them making a game of just a Breath of the Wild prequel. That's like not really a Breath of the Wild prequel. Sounds like almost like they're appeasing fans, but also like it sounds like people really enjoy these games. So that's super cool
Mhm.
for people who are looking for more fun in the world with the same characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. So I'm looking forward to play more of it.
Has it done well like critically? Or people like it?
Um,
Let's get a quick meta score.
I'd imagine it's kind of mid because, as I said, people either love them or hate them because they're kind of all the same game. And there's like Dynasty Warriors games, and then there's the Pirate Warriors games, which is One Piece characters and locations. There was the Fire Emblem Warriors, and they all kind of play the same, just with like different series that they're pulling the characters and locations from. So really, when they're licensing like One Piece or Zelda, it's more like fan servicey and like the move sets and the characters. But some people
Gotcha.
really like it, and some people just think they're all the same game and didn't really care that another Zelda one came out.
So a quick update on their Metascore. 79 as of right now with 65 reviews. But I want to touch on that gameplay because I've talked about it here on the past a little bit, but um see I like I've said, I'm not much of a Nintendo guy. My girlfriend loves Nintendo games. I asked her if she was getting this game, and she's like, "No, I hate fighting games." So I can see where that gameplay is really like polarizing for people because it sounds like you're really enjoying it on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. My girlfriend says that there's no way in the world she'd buy this game and enjoy it, but you guys are both people who put Breath of the Wild as one of your favorite games of all time. That's just like an
Mhm.
interesting how gameplay can be that divisive amongst people where the story at some point like doesn't even matter. Like if you're not going to have fun playing it, then the story just is not worth even taking part in.
Yeah, and that seems to be what a lot of people felt about this game. But I mean, I I enjoyed the first Hyrule Warriors and was kind of disappointed that I didn't get into like the definitive edition just because of like it was the same game I was replaying basically. So to just have kind of like new content for me to kind of jump into this gameplay style again.
Mhm.
Like it's not the best, but I mean I find it satisfying to just button mash and kill a bunch of enemies.
Yeah, see, that's kinda how I felt with Hades too, is when I was showing her that game, she's like, "I don't know how you play this." I was like, "It's fun, what are you talking about? You're like a badass killing people, it's epic."
Yeah, yeah,
Good
you
time.
feel badass. That's pretty much what it is.
So, it takes place 100 years before, Breath of the Wild?
Yes. So Breath of the Wild starts by telling you there was like a war 100 years ago that the characters lost. Um,
Okay.
and you're kind of like picking up the pieces
Like,
from that.
Link and them.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
So
Link is 100 years old?
yeah. Well, and this isn't really a spoiler because this is like first minute of the game. He was like cryogenically frozen, and he wakes up without any memories at the beginning of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay, so alright, honestly, I'm just curious at this point. So, so what am I trying to Wind Waker, that's a Zelda game, came out on the GameCube, correct?
Yeah.
Does Breath of the Wild relate to that game? Or, like, and I guess any previous Zelda games?
No, and the
Okay,
the Zelda the Zelda timeline is a whole another topic. And it's like some of them are related on the same timeline, but some of them are like just like completely different things. But most game is usually like an isolated thing, and they all take place like hundreds of thousands of years apart from each other.
got it. In this mythical kingdom of Hyrule, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I honestly sound like people are gonna be listening to this and like, "This guy's a gaming podcast? He doesn't know anything about Zelda." But you guys have to understand, like, when I was a kid, my parents did not buy me, like, Nintendo things, they bought me, like, Sony things, so, it's interesting for me to learn about this. I've already told Adam this on several occasions when that we were just talking about the other day when the Switch Pro is released, announced, or if it never comes out, regardless, at the beginning of next year, sometime in the spring or early summer, I plan on getting a Switch, and Adam's gonna loan me like his must play Switch games that I'm gonna try and
Mhm.
just blow through. So I've got Breath of the Wild's on that list. I'll probably check this game out too. But Super Mario Odyssey is also on there. So, I'll buy the online so I can play like what is it, the Nintendo 64 and the NES? Is that what you can play online?
It's the Super Nintendo and the NES, but I'm hoping there'll be a
Gotcha.
Nintendo 64.
So, and I know it's not going to be a perfect way to play those games. It would be much better to probably play them on the original system, but it is a way I plan on, getting caught up with Nintendo, so I don't sound like such an idiot every single time Nintendo stuff it comes up in our conversations on our podcast.
Oh, dude, I should loan you my GameCube. You could get a lot of Nintendo games that way.
I mean, I would 100% do that. Like, there are so many games on my backlog though. I have 3 of the Silent Hill games on the PlayStation 2 that I want to get through, but I would 100% like play some GameCube games. I feel like
Yeah.
there's just such a gap in knowledge. I feel like I'm compared to an average person pretty knowledgeable about games, but my Nintendo knowledge is at like 1%.
Mhm. Yeah, dude, the GameCube, like, it's what I grew up playing, and it still has a lot of, like, my favorite games of all time. So, you should definitely check some of those out, but we can talk about that, I guess, like, off
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah, let's start making I'll make a shopping list of games I wanna borrow from you while we're on. So, can I
Yeah,
borrow, Wind Waker? Can I borrow, what's the Smash game? Is it called Brawl, right?
it's called Melee.
Oh,
Brawl was
wait,
on
okay, honestly, wait, this is leading right into our Smash controversy, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Do you know what
Alright.
it is?
No, I haven't. I saw it on Twitter, but I didn't really look too much into it. I saw, I don't know if anyone here watches his videos, but his name's Jericho. I mean, his real name's Tucker, but he goes by Jericho. And I saw a tweet about him, and I was like, Nintendo, pleh, and like skipped by it. But I'm interested to hear
Yeah.
about it.
So, like, I first heard about this news, and I was like, "Okay, whatever," but then, like, people are just so mad about it online, so I wanna know your thoughts.
Mhm.
So here's the story, and I could not have, like, all the facts right or whatever, but this is how, like, the story is to me. So, the Smash community is, like, very competitive, and right now, because of COVID, there aren't any tournaments going on, so they're
Okay.
doing online tournaments where people sign up and play the games online. but the Smash game that people love to play competitively the most is the GameCube one, Melee. So
Mhm.
there was a tournament. I don't know how official it was to Nintendo, but their plan was to use a modded version of Melee that you could play online because the game didn't have online initially. So there was like a modded version where people could play Melee online for the tournament because they couldn't do it in person because of COVID. So
Okay.
Nintendo told them like, do not use a modded version of our game for this tournament. And the people who ran the tournament, I guess, said no, like they wanted to use the modded version. So Nintendo just told them, okay, you're not doing the tournament at all then, and like shut the whole thing down. So people are mad at Nintendo saying that they don't respect like the Smash community and just like stuff like that.
Okay.
And like I could have
That
all the
might be a
facts
little bit
wrong.
of a stretch.
Yeah, it's like I could have some facts wrong, but to me, it's like they wanted to use a modded version of Nintendo's game, and Nintendo told them not to, which is like fair, I guess. Um, and and then they said no, and then that's why Nintendo said because I guess it had to have been some sort of official tournament where Nintendo was
Yeah.
like had the authority to say the tournament's not happening at all.
I see. Okay, so that explains the memes I saw of like Patrick from SpongeBob's like being a scientist when it's like Nintendo making video games and then him with like the plank nailed to his forehead saying Nintendo making business decisions. That's mind-boggling to me. So people wanted to play their game online. And they were gonna mod it, but the only difference was the only thing that the mod was changing was allowing for people to play online, correct? As
Correct.
far as we know.
Yeah.
And they said no to that. They said, "No, we don't want you to play our game where people can see this game and maybe wanna buy it or maybe, wanna get into Smash."
Yeah.
So they just said no. They're like, "No, we don't want the advertisement."
Well, it's not. They didn't want them to use a
Why on earth
modded
would they do
version of
that?
their game in their tournament.
Yeah, but it's not changing anything about the game. It's not like they're changing and having like I don't know, like a Donkey Kong with a huge wiener is playing now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
nothing was like fundamentally different about the game other than you can play with your friends that aren't in the same room.
yeah, and like for they wanted that so the tournament would have been able to happen with because of COVID. Like people can't get together and play melee for tournaments, so they were using a version they had
So
online.
so if this was a Nintendo sanctioned tournament, knowing that people can't meet up for COVID, why were they okay with people even playing the GameCube version of the game knowing that it can't be played online? Or were they
See
just
that
expecting people would play like the Switch version?
that's the part I don't know enough about. Like what authority did Nintendo have to say that like this can't happen? Where they like shut down the tournament because they were going to use a modded version of their game.
I mean, it's from what it sounds like Nintendo is complete within their rights to like shut the tournament down or say what people can and can't do with their game, but it just doesn't
Hmm.
to me. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why would they do that? Like like people were gonna play their like play their game and basically advertise their game for them without being paid. From what it sounds
Hmm.
like, it doesn't make sense. That's like when you see all these like games that have licensed music in it and
Hmm.
people are using like playing like streaming that game or maybe it's in the background of a YouTube video and they go, "No, like you need to take that down. Like we don't want this free advertisement." Like I can understand if someone's using your song in the background and you're saying like slurs or saying really offensive things to take that down, but for the most part it's not the case. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Well, it's kind of different with music because um, the people who made the music need to be like paid for it to be used. Like that's kind of how the copyright system works. So normally it's like
I
robots
mean,
who will like flag like Twitch streams or YouTube videos for using music without permission.
I do get that, but the people who make the video games pay them for for their music.
Hmm.
They're, like, using their content, like, they're using their property to make money, and then so I feel like at that point, like, you're just gonna get paid each and every time someone, like like uses your song. I don't know. Like I have so many conflicting opinions about that it has nothing to do with the Smash controversy, so we can just get off of this topic. But it's just a sticky situation. I don't personally understand the decision made by Nintendo. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't either. But I mean, they were definitely like within their rights to say like, don't use a modded version of our game.
So dumb.
Yeah,
Maybe it wasn't a stretch to say that they don't care about the Smash community. It doesn't sound like they do. Because if that's what like the people who enjoy playing Smash, that's the game that they want to play on the most. Why would they sit there and say no? We want you to play one of our other games that you don't care for as much. It's
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Obviously, we're not in these board meetings with these people.
Yeah,
But
we need to call up. We need to call Nintendo up so we can just listen in. Can you record your thing over Discord and just send us the link? We have a
yeah.
bot you can use.
All right, but yeah. So let's move on. Obviously, Matt, you have had a whole nother week's worth of
Hmm.
time to play the PS5 and Miles Morales. So do you have any
Yep.
updated impressions you'd like to share?
So unfortunately, I'm in my exam week for college. So of those like 7 days I had to play, I only really got to play it for about 2 days, and both of those days were yesterday and the day before. But I did finish Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I will say that is one of my favorite games I've played. I would genuinely put it in my top 10. They did an amazing job. And for a game that's the same map as the first one, it's just Manhattan again. And for a game that basically all they did was just reskin the entire city with Christmas decorations and snow, it feels fresh. And I just wonder how long they're going to be able to do this type of thing and make it feel fresh. But they were able to do it this time, which is massively impressive. My big thing is I was worried about the villains because this is more of a spin-off title. I don't know a whole lot about the Miles Morales comics, so I was a bit worried they were only gonna have maybe like a couple villains, and one of them was the Tinker, which I didn't know too much about, but kind of looked dumb in the trailers. I assumed at some point the Prowler was gonna show up in it, and I mean that's already been announced. He is in it, but it's really good. They improved upon everything that came out in the first game, and it just makes me look forward to the eventual sequel that comes out, and the potential of being able to play as both Miles Morales and Peter Parker on doing missions together, because there are a couple points in Miles Morales where you're teamed up with someone. I don't want to spoil anything, but you're teamed up with someone and you do like finisher moves together, and like maybe you toss them up and they smash them down or something like that, and those are so fun to just see. And there are several times throughout the playing the game where I was like, this is cool. There's a couple boss fights where I audibly said like, this is epic. I said that out loud, and people were like, I don't know, it's an amazing game. It's an absolute must play. If you have not played either of the Spider-Man games, buy the Spider-Man remastered and then play Miles Morales, because they are incredible games.
Yeah, when I eventually get a PS5, that's going to be the first two games I play. Probably is Spider-Man and Miles Morales.
I'm telling you, you are going to be amazed. There are a couple things they did. So in the first game, you're like always connected with a police officer, and they kind of tell you like, hey, there's a crime going on. Can you go check it out? This one, it feels it's different. They didn't do the same thing, and as Miles, you have like a friend that you go to school with, and he's almost like he kind of takes that role of like the police officer character, and he's just kind of sits in your room and sits on a laptop and tracks crimes for you. But there's this really cool feature they added that is it's like an app. It's called the what is it called? I don't remember what it's called. The Amazing Spider-Man app maybe, but basically what it is there's like from the start of the game, there's like 13 different things you can go, and it's someone put in the app like, "Hey Spider-Man, I need help. Like I'm trapped on this building," or "Hey Spider-Man, I need help. I lost my cat." And you can just do them at any point throughout the story, and it felt a lot more organic than typical side stories do, because the one that pops into my head the most is there's a side mission in Red Dead Redemption where, and it happens a lot with those games where you're just kind of wandering around and you see a house, but there's like a side mission there. Like at no point in real life if I'm a cowboy, am I gonna get off my horse and just go see if this guy needs help, like, catching a fish? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
It makes it a lot better for them to just request the help, and it's like, okay, I have actual reason to be there. Um, I don't know. I like that a lot more. I hope they continue with that.
Yeah. I'm I'm excited to play that a lot. So I'm trying to like kind of stay away really from like seeing story stuff.
Mhm.
Um
It's good though. I guess I do have something else to say about the PS5 that I have more praise to heap on Astrobot. So in our last episode, I talked about how fun it was. I at that point I hadn't touched the speed run or the speed trial things yet. They're fun. Like I don't know how they're gonna like how they have made this 2 hour game as much fun as they have. This 2 hour game I've probably played for like 6 hours just trying to get fast, like break a record for
mhm.
speed run, and it's I don't know. They did an amazing job. Right now I'm very impressed with this $500 purchase I've made, and I will recommend anyone to get one if they are able to get their hands on it. I know it's hard, but
Yeah. When I was at GameStop yesterday, picking up Age of Calamity, some guy walked in and was like, "Man, I've been all over town looking for a PS5." And the GameStop manager was like, "Yeah, you're not gonna find one."
you're gonna have to go some other town then because we don't
Yeah.
have one.
Um, yeah, yeah. But so you've been playing that. Let me tell you what I've really been playing recently besides Hyrule Warriors. I over the weekend, or not like a couple days ago, got the chance to finally really get uh a good chance to play VR. And
Mhm.
that like before I was like, okay, VR is whatever. It's kind of gimmicky, like it's not perfect. And like, yeah, that's true. But man, dude, if it is not fun, I had so much fun, dude. I played Beat Saber was the first game I played. It
Okay.
was a lot of fun. But then I played Super Hot VR, and I was really into that game. I was sweating. I was like on the floor, dude. That game is um so I don't know if you know what Super Hot is, but it's got
I have no idea what that is.
okay, so it drops you in a scenario with like people running at you in slow motion and like guns and other weapons kind of like in your surroundings. So you're dropped in and you really quick have to like make a game plan to like pick up a weapon and like kill these people before they shoot you. And once you kill
Okay,
like
is that the game where you can, like, punch them? And is that the game where, like, everything's, like, really white around you?
yeah, it's white and the people are red glass. So when you kill them,
Gotcha.
they
Mhm.
shatter.
Gotcha.
And like I think that game's not in VR, but I don't see how it would be as much fun not in VR. Because in the VR, dude, it's so much fun. You pick up a gun, you shoot, and they shatter. And like I was doing like really technical stuff, just like punching people's arms so their gun flies towards me and then shooting them in the head.
So I have a question. I don't necessarily really understand VR. Like I know, like for example, on the PlayStation, you need to have the PlayStation VR headset if you want to play VR games. What was this connected? Were you at someone's house who had like a PC that this was connected to?
So I was playing on the Oculus Quest 2, which the thing on your head is the system. But to
Gotcha. Okay.
display it on the TV, you have to like Chromecast it so that other people can see what you're doing. But
Okay. So
other
you
than
don't
that,
even need to do that. Like if you just wanted to play on your own, you could. But if you want people, if you're playing with like a group, you can cast it to the TV.
yeah, like the headset itself is the system, so you don't need like anything else to hook it up.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that sounds like fun. I've been looking at getting into VR, and I want to. Part of I want to get a VR, a PlayStation VR, but the thing is with that, it's like you can only really play like I guess the Sony licensed properties. So
Mhm,
my ideal situation would be building up my computer to be better, and then getting probably the Valve one because I really want to play Half Life Alex, but I'm fairly certain that I would have to do much more research than what I know now. But I'm pretty sure that headset is capable to play other games that aren't like necessarily Valve games, but the
mhm.
Beat Saber. Tell me about that. I have a friend at my job who says that's one of his most played games on PlayStation. Would Is that a game where you could see yourself getting into it like you do with Rock Band?
Yeah, it's kinda like Rock Band and Just Dance combined, Um,
Okay.
because it's like you hit the notes in like into the rhythm of the song, and but there's more like movement, like you have to move side to side to avoid things that are coming at you, in addition to like hitting the notes from a certain direction. Um, but the cool thing about it is the custom community. Like most of the songs that you can get in the game are custom made, so you can find any song you want. I know on the console I played, it had the Home Depot commercial music that was like 30 seconds that
Yeah.
you could play.
Huh. That's cool. That's one thing I wish they would. I know you can play like different versions of like Rock Band and Guitar Hero on the computer, and it's like modded and stuff. But
Hmm.
I wish more games would support like community involvement like that, because that's what for me, that's what really like keeps a game going for years and
Hmm.
years.
And I mean, kind of ballsy for them to really make it easy to have um, like licensed music and stuff. Because I know it's hard with like Guitar Hero and Rock Band to do like
Hmm.
for them to really like support custom stuff just because of like music licensing rights and all that. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know too much about how like Beat Saber handles it, but from what I've heard, it's like really easy to just natively install custom songs into the game itself.
This is like a copyright podcast. We're going over copyright
Yeah.
law. But I know, just touching on that, I know that when the company that makes Rock Band, when they made their Beatles Rock Band, you had told me that essentially bankrupted their company, paying for the license to use those songs. So
Hmm.
it's expensive stuff that you're potentially dealing with, and even if you do it illegally, you're probably looking at even more expensive lawsuits. So it's cool when companies and game developers are able to do it in a way and make it cool.
Hmm. All right, so we have two more things we're going to talk about. The first is yesterday I saw a headline that HBO gave the green light for a Last of Us show. Now,
Yes.
I haven't played Last of Us, so how excited are you for this?
I'm fairly excited. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in video game adaptations to television or movie, so I'm keeping my expectations low so that way hopefully they can be exceeded. But it's cool. So Neil Druckmann is the person who writes a lot of the games for Naughty Dog. Specifically, I'm pretty sure he wrote both of. I know he wrote Last of Us Part 2, but I'm fairly certain he did Last of Us 1 as well. And he is going to be writing the show along with one of my favorite shows of all time, Chernobyl's head writer. That HBO miniseries that came out, I believe, 2 summers ago now. So, in seeing that, I my expectations were elevated quite a bit. I had to bring them back down to a reasonable level, but I'm just with that game in The Last of Us Part 2 coming out, I'm just so concerned that when they announce the cast, like every little detail that people think that they get wrong is going to be nitpicked, and I'm not looking forward to that at all. But I'm confident that they can make a good show, but I'm still keeping my expectations low.
Hmm.
But also, I don't have HBO, so I'm gonna have to figure something out in a year or two when it eventually comes out. And I guess with keeping with PlayStation properties, I don't know if you saw this, but Jim Ryan did an interview. I don't know who it was with. I wish I would have written it down, but essentially they asked Jim Ryan, who's the CEO, the Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO, if at some point that they're gonna release have a pro like a platform similar to Xbox's Game Pass that can compete with it. And he said, quote, "There is news to come," unquote. And I just thought that was exciting. I don't know what you think about this. I'm not optimistic that anything of the same value is going to come to PlayStation. I'm fully certain that what they're going to do is they're going to announce something about the PlayStation Plus collection, like maybe taking 2 games off and adding 2 new games to it, so it stays at those 20 games. I can see them expanding on that, or maybe like lowering the price of PS Now, or adding some other benefit to it. But I think people are going to get too excited about this and think, oh, we're going to have a Sony $10 Game Pass with their exclusives coming day one. I'm not gonna bet money on it because I'm not a betting man. If I was a betting man, I'd put a lot of money on them not doing that. They've said in the past that Sony is not able to, it's not financially feasible for them to do that. So I'm not optimistic with it, but it is interesting.
Hmm. I really agree with you. Like Game Pass is just such a good deal that it makes sense that Sony wants to kind of make a counterpoint to that themselves, but it's not going to be as good as a deal as Microsoft is doing.
And I guess while we're talking about Game Pass, I want to touch on this too. So a couple days ago on their Twitter, they had to put a picture of the Mandalorian and said news to come or something along those lines. And I was like, huh, they're gonna package Disney Plus with it. I wonder for how long. I went into the replies to it, and people were going nuts, thinking that there was gonna be like a Mandalorian game coming to Game Pass, and I was like, all right, gamers need to understand that, like, they need to not get their hopes up so much, because I was like, okay, cool, they're gonna get Disney Plus for 3 months, and even that wasn't even met. They're only getting it for 30 days, so it's just like whatever you think is gonna happen, lower your expectations like tenfold, and then you're probably still not gonna have those met.
Yeah, it's hard to really predict what a lot of these companies do.
Mhm.
Unless you're Capcom and have, like, your entire game slate for the next 4 years leaked.
Wait, what? How is this not a story?
I
When
honestly
was
forgot
this?
about it until just now. This was a few days ago. Someone went in and leaked a bunch of, like, files from a Capcom computer, and there's like, a Ace Attorney collection coming out, there's a Dragon's Dogma 2, another Street Fighter, um, another Resident Evil remake. So that yeah, it's like all their games they planned on coming out between, like, now and 2024.
Oh my god, I just I'm looking at it right now. Oh man, that sucks for them though. That's
Yeah, it
that's really
does.
unfortunate. Ugh. I mean, it's cool looking
Uh,
at these games though. I mean, I'm not too upset
yeah.
about it, but I feel bad for them.
Yeah. So unless you're Capcom, it's hard to really know what any company's gonna do.
Man, there have been so many leaks recently. I know Naughty Dog had their leak with The Last of Us Part 2. With the new consoles coming out, there were leaks every other day. The Nintendo Switch Pro has been leaked. At this point, I don't even know how it's not announced yet. I feel like it's the internet's worst kept secret, but
Mhm.
who knows? Maybe maybe we all get made fools of, and Nintendo doesn't do it. But man, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. So on that note, I
How did I not
suppose
hear about this?
oh man. So I suppose that's it for today, gamers. If you want to keep up with us, at Ramblin Gamers is the Twitter and the Instagram handle. As stated at the beginning, we're planning on doing some Twitch and YouTube stuff. Also, Ramblin Gamers on the respective platforms. Um, we're gonna keep pushing it, but please, if you like this, share it. We're trying to get more fans of our show so we can do a lot more fun things with people. We want to do streams, we want to have guests on, YouTube videos, let's plays, all that fun stuff. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Matt?
Yeah, I know we talk about this every single episode at the end about us eventually doing things on YouTube and Twitch, and those things are finally coming to fruition. December 10th is the day where we are going to do a kind of like a video game cation and just record a bunch of stuff. But recently we've considered toying with the idea of putting our podcast on YouTube, potentially reaching more people. If anything, we're probably going to that might be the case before this episode even goes live on Tuesday. We might be keeping you guys up to date on our socials about that. But in regards to Twitch, I know I've streamed in the past. Adam hasn't, but he's looking at getting into it with this. I do plan on doing a stream the Friday after Thanksgiving. Do I know what I'm playing yet? No, I have no idea, but we will figure that out, and just follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll keep you up to date with that. But please just share this with a friend. Please, please,
Yeah.
please.
Suggestion for you: you should do some Astros Playroom speedruns for your stream.
I was kind of thinking about that. I was that's kind of why I was started practicing, so I don't look like an absolute idiot when I first do it. But I've never speedrun in my life, but I think three of the four I did, I was in the top 1,000 after like an hour on each one. So
So there's room for improvement.
pretty cool, I guess. I just don't want to be made fun of. I don't want to go like tune into my Astrobot speedrun thing.
Well,
Huh?
you're gonna get made fun of.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I know. I like maybe you're right. Maybe I will do that. That'd be fun. Maybe or maybe I'll do like maybe Bug Snacks. I haven't touched that game yet. That might be meme worthy enough to get a couple viewers.
All right. Well, we'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of the Ramblin' Gamers.
See you guys.